Okay, this is the October 2nd, 7 p.m. Township Committee meeting.
Good evening, everybody. I'd just like to call the 7 p.m. work session meeting to order. Joyce, could you do the roll call?
Certainly. Mr. Boonstra?
Here.
Mrs. Rubenstein?
Here.
Mr. Scanlon is in... Mr. Scanlon? Mr. Stanley?
Here.
Mayor Madigan?
Here.
Thank you.
Joyce, can you kindly read the open work session statement?
Of course. This regular work session meeting of the Wykoff Township Committee is now in session. In accordance with the Open Public Meeting Act, notice of the meeting appears on our annual schedule of meetings. A copy of the annual schedule has been posted on the bulletin board in Town Hall. Copy has been filed with the town clerk, the Record, Ridgewood News, and North Jersey Herald and News, all newspapers having general circulation throughout the Township of Wykoff. At least 48 hours prior to the meeting, the agenda was posted, filed, and mailed to the papers.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
On the agenda, next item, I have the presentation, a proclamation to the fire chief recognizing Fire Prevention Month. Maybe he's a little delayed, so therefore I'm going to go to the next item. Can I have a motion, please, to open to the public for a 10-minute public comment session, 2 minutes per speaker, public comments on any governmental issue that a member of the public feels may be of concern to the residents, Township of Wykoff.
So moved.
Second.
Okay.
Before we,
Aye. Before we go into the public comment, and I'll allow as much time as we need, even though it says 10 minutes, I just want to make a couple of comments concerning... Tim, would you like to go?
Whatever you like, sir.
Well, you missed your spot, so I don't mind bringing you back up. Serious, I know you have a commitment tonight, right?
Yes, sir.
All right, so,
I apologize, I'm late.
we're gonna go backwards. All right, so I'd like to read this proclamation. First of all, this is our fire chief, Tim Brock. I think we should give him and all the volunteer fire department a round of applause. So I'm gonna read this proclamation. Now, October is Fire Prevention Month, whereas Fire Prevention Month is celebrated because fire is a serious public safety concern both locally and nationally, and whereas the Wykoff Township Committee and the Wykoff Volunteer Fire Department are committed to ensuring the safety and the security of those living in and visiting the Township of Wykoff, and whereas people are the greatest risk from fire in their homes, and Wykoff's first responders are dedicated to reducing the occurrence of home fires and home fire injuries through prevention and fire protection education. And whereas we encourage all Wykoff residents to have a planned, practiced home fire escape plan, which increases the chances of survival during a home fire, and whereas we also encourage all residents to install smoke alarms in every sleeping room, outside each separate sleeping area, and every level of the home, and to ensure that those devices meet the needs of those who are deaf or hearing impaired. And whereas the Township of Wykoff will disseminate a series of home fire prevention best practices on its social media sites to make residents and property owners aware of fire prevention measures they can practice. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the Township Committee of the Township of Wykoff, County of Bergen, State of New Jersey, that the month of October be designated as Fire Prevention Month, and that all residents and property owners are encouraged to review and practice home fire prevention best practices. So Tim, we're going to have you come up. We're going to present you with this proclamation, and maybe we could have a photo with our fire commissioner and our other township committee members.
Thank you.
All right, well, Tim is here, I just want to say one thing. I know, Tim, you want to say anything first. You want to say anything?
Thanks, Tom.
There you go. But many of you may have been aware of the fireworks on Saturday night. It was very successful. People were very enthusiastic. We're trying to help the fire department, the ambulance corps, our first responders, and our police, but they did a great job, very successful, the food trucks. We're going to talk more about it later. We don't know if you're going to stay for later, but I wanted Tim to hear it, but thanks for everything you guys and gals did to make it such a successful evening, and also for what you do in that town. We're very fortunate with volunteer, not only fire department, but the ambulance corps, so thank you again.
All right, thank you.
Tim. Good job.
Thank you.
That was the other one we had. Okay, so that actually wasn't bad timing at all. So, I'm just gonna say, before we open it to the public and have you come up, any questions, concerns you may have, I know several of you are extremely concerned, and condolences to the families that, have lost a pet, which is very sad, with wild animals, and particularly a coyote. I know some of you are concerned, as we all are, about, safety in our streets, and I talked to a few people, and, we have a double-edged sword. We're fortunate we're up here in Bergen County, although it's changing, the Wyckoff, Franklin Lakes, Marwar area, where, we have some wildlife and some nature, but there's some trade-offs there. We know there's a recent incident over on Patton Place. We did have a meeting amongst the Township Administrator, Police Commissioner, Rudy Boonstra, myself, and Chief Murphy to have some discussion. We also had, they had a Tyco does our animal, discussion as far as animal protection, and does all our work with wild animals. And, we're gonna do a couple of things. I'm gonna ask Bob just to comment, just so everybody knows where we are, and what we're doing, and how it works with the animals. Then I'm gonna talk to you about a couple of things we plan to do that may be of interest, and then we can have questions and comments. Okay, thank you, everybody. Bob, you wanna comment a little bit about what Tyco does and...
Sure, Mr. Mayor. The township contracts with Tyco Animal Control Service. Every community must have a certified animal control officer, and the Tyco service has been utilized by the town for many years. At our meeting, we talked about having 3 public information and public education sessions. One with the Senior Citizens Club at the Larkin House, and 2 at the library, one in the morning and one in the evening, so we could attract as many folks who are interested in attending and learning about living with wildlife in your backyard. And Tyco would be providing that education session.
Okay, and then, after we have a question and answer, I have several handouts that I'm gonna pass out, or we're gonna have passed out to the audience. I've learned a long time, don't get them out in advance, because as people are talking, everyone's reading them. But it talks about how to keep property and wildlife safe, and, other information on, what Tyco's telling us to do, should we encounter the wildlife. But we are trying to be as proactive as possible in these information sessions and dialogue. We don't want to just have it in one area. We want to have, the area that you folks are in, we want to make sure people in the town. So Tuesday, October 15th, at the Larkins House, as part of the Senior Citizen Program. Larkin House is right by you folks on Godwin. That's at 12:30. Thursday, October 17th, 11 a.m. for those folks that can avail themselves, coming a day at the library. And then Monday, October 28th, 7 p.m. at the library. Ironically, our biggest challenge was getting a date that was available because of everybody's schedules and room books. So we hope that'll be helpful. And with that in mind, I'd like to welcome anybody to come on up. There's only two things you have to do. You have to speak into the mic, which we're going to relocate. Please give us your name and address. I would also ask you, as a convenience, if you can leave us your name, maybe your phone number, should we wish to contact or need to contact you, we'd be happy to do so. But anybody that would like to come up, and we'll take one at a time, again, whatever time it takes, we'll be happy to accommodate you. So who's brave enough to come up first? Comments, questions, on this, Cruz? Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor, Council, my name is Bill Kirshner. I've been a resident of Patton Place since 1992, and I'm here with a bunch of my neighbors and friends who obviously have experienced the coyote issue. And, I think I appreciate what we talked about with Tyco, but we have people that are afraid to go out in their yards. We have people with little children that would like to let them play in the yard. The situation that we had with my friend here who lost his dog and his family's dog, he was away from him for no more than 30 seconds. And it was almost like the animal was laying in wait. So while I appreciate we want to do things like not leave out food, not leave out water, do all those appropriate things, we still come home after dark, we come home at dusk, we have kids walking to the bus in the morning. It's scary. I now have a baseball bat by each of my doors, so when I go out, because I have a dog and I had an electric fence. My neighbors have many of the same things, and again, I appreciate what they say, but we're kind of living in fear. We're living with our heads over our shoulders. We're not people that want to trap and kill or anything else, but to be honest, just telling us to be prudent, to be careful, really doesn't appease us. And as I said, we have one family here that had a loss, and we know about the lady who lives in Spring Meadows who had a loss. So, we would just like to hear a little bit more of proactive what's going to be done, because we're afraid. And, we have wives, children, and, while obviously living up in a nice community like this has all of its benefits, we don't want to be afraid when we come home and have to go from our car to our house and just say, let's get in, let's, head on a swivel, look at what's going on. So we'd like to just hear a little bit more about what we can proactively do to control the situation. Because I know one night I looked out and I saw two. I'm sure there's more, because I've spoken to people who say they hear them howling at night over by the old IBM facility. So there's more out there. Maybe this one is just hungry, it's young, whatever, but we'd like to just know what can be done to help protect us a little bit more, whether it's trapping, whatever. We don't want to kill them, we just want to relocate them, but we have a situation where we're afraid right now, and we'd just like to see if that could be addressed a little bit.
Okay. Now, again, I know very little, other than we had one preliminary meeting. I know it's against the law to relocate any of wild animals, which is one of the things we're fighting, because we are regulated by the state of New Jersey Wildlife and Fisheries Division. But we are looking at a couple of things. Tyco is exploring a couple of other avenues to be a little more proactive as far as going after the animals. But, again, tonight, I don't have any further to offer. Bob, do we have anything further to offer as far as the information sheets? And what I'm going to do is, after you ask questions and answers, I'm going to give you the information sheets. We're going to have a little more of the meeting, and then I'll open it back up again should there be any questions based upon some of the information that we're handing out. One thing I learned, and I was surprised, that one of the things is, by nature, coyotes in particular really don't like humans. From a distance standpoint, they don't know whether they're looking at a rabbit, they really don't understand what they're looking at. And one of the most effective things is to either a horn, a whistle, something to keep them away. But, we'll take some more questions and answers. I'll hand these out, and then I'll open it back up again.
Okay, and I'm sure there's a couple of my friends and neighbors that would like to comment as well, but...
Well, I hope so, yes.
Yeah, but again, thank you.
Yes, okay.
We're a little bit afraid that we've read, we've been told they don't like humans, but we don't want to meet the one that likes humans, that's all.
Oh, I understand.
Thank you.
I can appreciate the angst. I have 7 children and 6 grandchildren, so I can appreciate the Yanks, you know.
Bill, what's the number of your house, if you don't mind?
49.
Thank you.
Who else would like to come up? This gentleman, you're gonna come up after this lady, I think, right? We talked a little earlier, you had some thoughts? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, we are family from Patton Place that we lost our dog. Actually, my daughter wrote something, but she can read it. I'm gonna read it for her, for
Okay,
myself.
sure.
This is a little bit statement about our experience. Then on September 22nd, we lost our beloved 4-year-old Yorkie, Buddy. This was his name. He was not just a dog. He was part of our family and the community. He meant so much to all of us. He waited for my mom, it's me, to get home from work every night so he could go to bed with her. He was there with her when she woke up. To my dad, Buddy was like the son he never had. He followed him everywhere. He took naps with him, he worked with him, everything they did together. He loved my dad more than anything. As for myself, Buddy was there when I got home from school. Sometimes it would only be me and him in a house until my parents will get home, but at least I was never alone. I always knew he truly cared for me. He was in all our plans for the future. My parents thought he would retire with them. Even though he was such a small dog, he had a huge heart and loved us so much. We never thought the day would come so soon, where we had to say goodbye to our baby and protector. And this is from me. The coyote did not just take our best friend from us that day. He also took our sense of safety on our property. We moved to Wyckoff 7 years ago because it was safe, family-friendly town. But we don't even feel safe in our own backyard anymore. My grandson, who's 1 year old, visited me this weekend. He loves outdoors, but I was too afraid to take him on my backyard. I see people on the street walking with lights and weapons, and I just think about how wrong it is. We should be able to walk on our neighborhood without feeling scared. These coyotes deserve a home, but it cannot be backyard of Wyckoff.
Thank you for putting that together, and again, on behalf of all of us, you know, you lose an animal with a family member, so we can...
It's not just losing, it's just thinking about next day what's going to happen.
Right.
After this next day, coyote was on our street scene again, police was called. 2 days after, my husband saw coyote early in the morning. It's never happened like this before. We've been here for a long time, 7 years, I think it's a long time. And it's happened once in a blue moon, we see coyotes in the dark. I come in from work, usually after midnight. And I see maybe once or twice for all this time. Just starting from the summer, something changed.
Okay, thank you. Sir?
I think, geez, Bill and her said it pretty well.
Well, what about the question you asked me for the meeting? I told you to save it till we have the meeting.
She said 37 years, never had this before.
Could you just, the mic coming up here, be nice, you know?
I said, my question,
I'm sorry, just your name and address, please.
Albert Barretto, 444 Patton.
Thank you.
I was saying, in 37 years since we lived there, we've never used to hear anything. I think in that time, maybe one issue, when the kids were at Lincoln 30 years ago. But I don't know if it's the internet now, or communications is a lot more closer than you hear more than you did before. And these things occur, but we didn't know about it. But it's just very, like you said, discouraging that, you can't use your own backyard. In July, I was telling him before, I was watching the Yankee game in Boston, in London, and it was a slaughter. So I went outside, sat in the deck, enjoying the summer, and I saw the bear go through the other side of my fence. It was a small bear. I just want to add, when I saw it going across the fence, it was a small bear. Then it was at the end of the corner, Woodbury and Patton, on that little stream that's there, playing in the water. So it was a baby bear. Like I said, we have grandkids that visit us 3 times a year from the city. They come from Manhattan, they want to go in the backyard, they want to play. And then you have to stay there with them. They can't even play in the little swing set and stuff. So, like I said, we are all concerned, and, I'd like to see something happen. And, you don't have to kill them, but I mean, something, either trap them, get them out of here, that's all.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And by the way, just one comment, I don't want you to leave with the impression that we're not doing anything, we're only doing information sessions, we're only handing out handouts. We are looking into what we can do under the guidelines of the state of New Jersey, which we fall under when it has to do with wildlife and fisheries. So we are looking into it. I have nothing affirmative to report. Hopefully by the 15th, we'd have something more definitive so we can take action. I know there are police that patrol the area, either in unmarked cars or police cars since then.
Yeah, I have seen more police come by Patton in the last week or two, and I think our only concern is that, if it happens again or a kid gets that, it would be bad publicity for the town. It's something that we don't want. Nobody wants. So.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm Roseanne Thompson, 465 Woodbury. We moved here in 1986, and we're at the very end of Woodbury Drive, which is a cul-de-sac, and we have that big hill that's all woods. When we moved here, there were no homes on Old Post. It was all woods, and we would see deer once in a while. And I guess I just have a question, maybe, is it a typo? I don't know if they would have the answer. Why, when there was so much more wooded area 25, 30 years ago, we didn't see this? And now it seems that the area is much more developed, and now we're seeing these wild animals come out. I agree with everyone else. We haven't really noticed them maybe 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, but we also hear them howling at night. And, that big IBM property was behind us, but nothing else was there. And we never saw anything other than deer around. And now all of a sudden, it's more residential, so many more homes. Do they have an answer why these animals seem to be...
Well, first of all, I think it's an excellent question. I wouldn't have the answer to it, nor would I want to speculate.
But why all of a sudden are they all coming out like this? It's crazy. I mean, we saw one, it was like 5 o'clock in the afternoon up on that hill, right? We pulled in our driveway, we're the last house there at the end, and we looked up and it was just like staring at us, and it was daylight. And we couldn't believe it. It was like the first time that we had really seen one up close. And then we were away, maybe 2 years ago. When we returned, we were in the backyard, and our neighbor behind us came up to the fence to tell us and showed us that they had taken a picture of the coyote in our yard, and we're totally fenced, we have a pool, but the thing climbed over the fence and was in our yard. We weren't home, but they took a picture of it. We couldn't believe it, that it was right there in the yard. So that would be my question. Do they have any knowledge as to why it seems that this is occurring now where we didn't see them for years?
Well, we've noted your question, plus we have it recorded. We'll make sure that's asked in advance of having the meeting so we can respond appropriately. Why does it seem like there's more around? What happens with the property and the property lines as they change and evolve?
And I mean, I think there was a woman in Upper Saddle River that was actually attacked by one. So when we think that they're not interested in humans, or they don't know what we are, this thing went after her. I don't know if she had a dog with her, I don't remember, but...
I'm not sure if she had a dog on a leash or whatever, but I know that in that particular case, they could go after the animal. I think they killed the animal because it got involved with a human. It's kind of crazy the way it works, but...
And why are they protected? What I don't understand. Like, what is this protected? We can't touch them. They're protected by the state.
Well, that's a good lead-in. I can throw right over to Bob Shannon. He can help you, give you whatever information he knows. Not that he knows more than me, but they're under the state wildlife and fisheries. Correct, Bob?
Tom, I'm not an animal control
Right.
certified officer. I don't know the answer to that question.
Well, at the meeting we had with the representative from Tyco, interestingly enough, there is a trapping season for coyotes in New Jersey. I believe it starts in March and goes for February or March and goes for 2 months. And it's, when you trap an animal like that, a snare trap is used, and it does not have a happy ending for the animal if it gets caught in the trap. They are not protected. She also said that if during deer hunting season, which of course doesn't occur around here any longer, that if a deer hunter sees a coyote, the deer hunter can take the coyote along with or instead of the deer. It's an interesting set of rules that I never knew existed before. But let me just back up to a comment that you made, ma'am. They have proliferated more in the last number of years. I grew up on a large farm here in Wyckoff, and we never saw a coyote. Ever did we see a coyote. Deer were hunted every deer hunting season, so the deer population was actually more under control than it is now. Coyotes will find a home to go, and they'll expand their territory as long as there's a safe haven for them and there's a food supply. But interestingly enough, excuse me, many years ago, they did not exist here.
What do they eat?
Whatever they can find.
Rodents, squirrels, rabbits, chipmunks. You won't choke up. Yes,
Just had
ma'am.
a question, and I didn't want to get in
Sure.
trouble without going out. Grace King, 416 Patton Place.
Grace, remind me your last name again?
King, K-I-N-G.
That's right.
You-
It's the third time you've told me. Thank you.
The only thing there's a couple of things. I've lived in Wyckoff for 25 years. I have woods right behind me because the church and then the nursery are right behind me. So I have seen a bear and, and I've had and I've called when we had foxes living back there. But I hear every night that howling I know it's right on the other side of the fence. I'm not going to go and look, but I know it comes. It's not even dark yet. It's just dusk. I have pictures where my neighbor took from her security, I guess her ring or something, in the middle of the afternoon, the coyote, watching the coyote coming right there, right on Patton Place, the coyote's there. I have 2 dogs and I walk around the block quite often. My neighbors over on Lake, which are closer to that IBM complex, tell me, because they have boys that ride the bikes up in Parsons Park, that there are a number of dens. You can walk right there into the den. So I don't know if the park had, when they just started to make that park public, if that had anything to do with it. I don't know if I don't know if you guys have teamed up with Franklin Lake, since that's where, it's my understanding that they're sleeping at night, but they're coming from, that's my understanding, that they're coming from there. I see pictures of them coming over from the lakeside, down over towards Patton, and then I hear them in the woods, right behind me. So my only question is, has Franklin Lakes addressed any of this? Do we need to go to their town council and raise it there, as well? I just want to be able to go also, as our neighbors do. I don't have any small children anymore, but, be able to go outside without bats. We all walk around with, mace alarms, not for the reason why most people buy the mace alarms.
Well, there was some, and again, it's only speculation, because they're looking into it, some speculation based upon the fact that naturally they would seek water. So where would be the closest water, maybe in that area, or...
Well, not over
Close by.
not over by me, it would be the other way.
Right.
Like behind, what's that, Hidden Valley? There's that little brook that comes from Old Post, right, and over. Over in...
But
in
I think Carol from Tyco said that whatever dens were there, they're gone, those coyotes are dispersed, or she speculated that. Did I have that right?
No, they were there the other day.
What, a bunch of coyotes?
I think she
dens.
indicated,
Oh.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I think she indicated at the meeting that she or people who deal with things like this could probably find the trails and sort of zero in on where the dens might be, should we choose to do anything like that.
Okay, and then I don't know if that daycare then is right there too as well, if they've had any, issues
Good
there.
thought.
It's just,
I haven't heard
this is what I think,
That's a good point.
It's,
Yeah.
right there, if there's anything then that we can do as residents to be proactive, because I'd hate to see, one of those little kids or something right there also get hurt.
I'm going to continue the question and answer on the comments, but I'm just curious. So Is anybody here thinking that they would be, hopefully you'd be able to come to one of these information sessions, get more information either October 17th or 28th? A show of hands, so we can... It's a combination of, here's the information, here's the background, here's our animal control specialist with all kinds of information, pertinent information. Why is it regulated? What are the other options that we could do? What are the trade-offs? It would be pretty positive. Rather than just information, it would be information at the same time, some potential action items that we may want to take. Okay.
Carol will be there?
Yes, Carol will be there. Yes.
Tina Nida, 401 Bromley Place. And I just want to mention Spring Meadow and let you know that what the people that walk around Spring Meadow did, as the board association has given out whistles to everyone because we were told that whistles work. We have seen coyotes like 10 o'clock in the morning just coming in off where that the Pullis Field is. And the flyer that you're giving out, will it have the times and dates for those
No.
3 sessions? So I just want to make sure I
You can
have it right.
repeat it
The
again.
first one is at Larkin on what date?
October 15th, Tuesday, October 15th, 12:30 p.m.
Okay, and the other one?
Thursday, October 17th, 11 a.m. at the library. Monday, October 28th, 7 p.m. at the library.
Thank
And
you.
I'm sure we'll put out some other public information to the website in the next few days. We literally just solidified this, I think it was yesterday.
Also, I know that they came when the little dog was, the coyote took the little dog, but the week before, we also had a deer, a fawn that we found in someone's backyard, that we think the coyote got to.
Okay, well, thank you for telling us that. And, you're gonna share with the residents as well?
Yes.
That'd be good. Excellent, thank you. Thank you. Okay. I think with that, I think we'll hand out some of these information sheets. And anybody else wish to speak on any other subject? We're gonna reopen it back up.
I have a question. Now, if it's in the old IBM place, that's a more Franklin Lakes problem than coming over here. There's nothing we could do in
Yeah, we live in
Parsons.
Wykoff though, so we wanna try to do...
No, I'm
what we
saying,
can do
the
to
actual
get
dens
Wykoff.
are in Franklin Lakes. It's their issue, there's their problem over there, not a problem for our town. They just happen to be 2 blocks away that can walk across.
Yeah, well, we'll explore the cooperative. We'll reach out to Franklin Lakes, City's very close to Mayor Bavona over there. So, what's the best?
Information sheet.
That's not what they want. I told them that too. I mean, I want to put a little more in it. No, that's not what they want. I mean, I try to put a little on it, but that's not what they come.
We're gonna come back.
That's not an option.
It's not. I mean, we had a conversation.
So can I have a motion to close the public session at this time, please?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, I think we'll, Bob, do you have anything for the, business meeting agenda that you want to highlight before we go to the committee reports?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I do. I would like to point out that Mrs. Santamoro has distributed a revised agenda. There are additions under motions and appointment for a volunteer member to the Environmental Commission and 2 firefighter appointments. We also have scheduled tonight a public hearing and further consideration of an ordinance which would decrease the truck weight limit on Mountain Avenue. We also have the overlay zones that have been prepared by Mr. Randell and reviewed by the project team of Mr. Scanlon and Mr. Boonstra for introduction. And we have a closed session regarding litigation.
Okay, committee reports. Brian, you want to go first tonight?
Sure, I'll be brief. I thought that the mobile county clerk's office was very successful, and I'd like to thank town hall staff for accommodating them. I think we all got this information that 118 residents took advantage of the county clerk being in Wyckoff for those 3 days, and especially things like passports and
Get my passport along in Mary Madigan's, very convenient.
yes, and I just figure, there had to be a savings at a minimum of 40 minutes, 20 minutes down to Hackensack Extra and 20 minutes back, and so that was 78 hours saved for our residents. So I would also thank the county clerk for making this service available, and I would definitely vote to have them come back next
Can we
year.
hope they come back next year? Right, Bob, are we gonna see if we can reach out to them in the DMV? Are we thinking of that?
Yes, I have that on
Consensus?
my report later. I want to try to get a consensus to try to bring them back, and also to inquire if you want to bring the DMV in as well.
Right.
I think that would be a help to our residents.
Yep, great.
I, with Rudy and Tom, attended the Never Stop the Fight 5K run and walk at 9 a.m. That was on September 28th. And this is a charity which was started by the Macaluso family, who lost their son Dylan to an accidental heroin overdose. And Dylan was in my daughter Nora's class, and I think it's great that they're encouraging the conversation of not just opioid addiction, but also depression, which Dylan had and was self-medicating. And I just think it's very important that the stigma, which they're trying to do with their charity, is eliminated so that we can talk more openly about these problems. And finally, I wanted to thank Tim and the Fireworks Committee, the police and the DPW, and all the people that made the fireworks possible. We had a fantastic crowd. It was a great show. Everything went very smoothly. And I'd like to thank also Wyckoff ShopRite and Lakeland Bank for just stepping up and sponsoring the bulk of the cost of the fireworks. And that's it. Thank you, Ty.
Okay. I'm gonna crisscross over to Rudy Boonstra.
Sure.
Mix it up a little bit.
Last Monday, I attended with the mayor an OEM meeting in preparation for the fireworks. Everything went smoothly there. I also this past Saturday morning, attended the Never Stop the Fight walk, as Brian indicated. Saturday evening, I too attended the fireworks. It was a great crowd, like the old days, and it was a huge success. And Tim, thanks to you and the fireworks committee who worked so hard on this, and I don't want to echo what Brian said, but I'll echo what Brian said, everyone who made it possible. It was a great event, and thanks again to Sarah ShopRite and Lakeland Bank, and hopefully we can continue this in the future. We had a police committee meeting Monday, much of which we'll talk about in private session, but we have as I think I announced at the last meeting, we were having a sergeant retire at the end of the year, so we are going to initiate the process of a promotional process and a hiring process, and we discussed that as well. This morning, I attended, along with the mayor, a little event at Coolidge School with parents who were out with their children for safe walking to school. We looked a little bit at some crosswalks and had a conversation with some of the parents there. This Friday is Coffee with a Cop at the TD Bank on Godwin Ave from 10 to 11 in the morning. If anyone wants to join us, meet our cops, a great bunch of cops we have here in town, and the coffee's free. Saturday, I would just remind everyone, there's a Zabriskie House, open house from 11 to 2. The Buddy Walk is at the YMCA, starting at 11. And the ribbon cutting for the developmentally disabled housing at Clinton and Morse is at 9 o'clock in the morning. They are all very good things, and anyone who can attend any of it is worthwhile. Monday next is a planning board meeting. Normally it's Wednesday, but it's Monday because of Yom Kippur. And we will be looking at the overlay zones for the township as required for our affordable housing plan. They will be introduced tonight, and the planning board will review them for comments on Monday night. Bob, are you going to reference the letter from Chief Murphy regarding the ordinance we're adopting tonight?
Yes.
On Mountain Ave? All right, then I'll let you do that. And I'll take my time for one. The Yorkie picture you're holding up, is that the little Yorkie from Patton Place who was taken? Okay, all right, thank you very much. Thanks, okay. That's all I have, Mayor, thank you.
Thank you. Melissa?
Okay, Environmental Commission, was not able to meet last month due to a lack of quorum, but we are introducing, Ben Weiner as our replacement, for the Environmental Commission, so hopefully we'll be able to vote on that this evening, and then hope to have a quorum on October 21st, is our next meeting. Board of Health, we have talked extensively about opioid abuse, and we have a resolution later for Knockout Opioid Abuse Day. It's a really proactive Board of Health. I'm really proud of them, and there's constantly a conversation going on what we can do to educate the public on opioid abuse, and now the latest topic is the vaping crisis, of course, and we just lost our first New Jersey resident to vaping. So we are in talks with the Y to put together a program to educate the public about vaping and, you know, how unsafe it is, and not just for children. This is something that adults, you know, are doing as well. So we're working on that. As Rudy said, the Zabriskie House open house fall festival is going to be a really great opportunity to tour the house this weekend. So hope to see people there. Rob, 240 Demarest Avenue, they made it active on the MLS again, but then they withdrew. Well, then they withdrew it temporarily. It probably just expired, so it's withdrawn now. So they're still obviously doing something with reviewing it.
I'll reach out to him again.
Yeah. I also want to thank Tim and the fireworks committee. It was an awesome evening on Saturday night. Everyone had a great time. I think the food trucks were really well received. The show was outstanding. Really just a great night, and thank you to Giuseppe Cassio and Larry and Sarah and ShopRite and Lakeland Bank, and all of our first responders. And thank you to the junior firefighters who did an incredible job with the playlist. The music was fantastic, and I think it reached the whole audience, so it was great. And also today was bike or walk to school day at Lincoln School, where I am, so we had a great time, you know, with all the kids walking to school. We had a nice hot day for it.
Nice.
And that's it.
Dick Shanley.
Thank you. Really, only thing I have to report on is the fireworks. Thank you to everybody who came out. It was a great night. I know when we were starting this back in early summer after Lakeland Bank came to us, Giuseppe Cassio, I had just assembled a subcommittee of 10 residents from Wyckoff to try to bring it back in 2020. Well, the whole thing changed, and then I upped it. We were going to try to bring it back in 2019 and never have it go away. So the 10 people on the subcommittee did a great job of stepping up. We met once a week up until the fireworks. Bob Shannon was a tremendous help. Our administrator was at almost every one of those meetings. The only ones he missed was when he was recovering from his surgery, but he was a tremendous, help in getting this, so thank you, Bob. I could not have done it without you. I want to also thank the fire department for stepping up. They did not, want to do this to start with because it was a fundraiser for them, but they weren't making any money off of it. But I was able to convince them that we would try to make this a fundraiser still, because we still needed their help. I mean, it was half the battle was getting money to pay for the fireworks. The other half was getting enough volunteers to make sure it was safe for all residents when we're doing a, public event. It needs to be cordoned off so that there's a fallout area in case one of the shells, misfires, and we can't have it fall on anybody, especially children. They were able to do that, and they did a good job of that. And we also needed the help of the ambulance corps. So I thank Haley Rooney, the captain of the ambulance corps, who was also able to, mobilize ambulance help, as well as, other towns to cover if there is a call in town, which she was able to do. So I thank her for that. And the fireworks committee did a great job. I know Chris Calabrese and my wife Melissa did a great job with the food trucks and the entertainment for the children. I know the DJ fell through, but it recovered well with the 3 junior firefighters that did a tremendous job.
We don't even need a DJ.
No.
I thought that was the plan.
We decided to save the $750 for the DJ after the DJ gave Bob a lot of trouble regarding insurance, and we couldn't put somebody on there that doesn't have the proper insurance. So we were able to get a donation of the sound equipment from the gentleman from Franklin Lakes, who lent us a lot of speakers. And then we had 3 junior firefighters who did a tremendous job of, the playlists. They have great playlists, so a lot of people were happy with that. So it was a great night, and I thank everybody. And I know we've probably made, and it's not all done counting, we've probably got donations in the amount of $13,000 or more. There's still donations still coming in, because we didn't get all the food truck money yet. I think there's 2 or 3 food trucks that still have to, give us their cut of what they've made. And, I know Amato Galasso, who was the entertainment, gave my wife the $750, that he gave as part of his, cut to help the first responders. So I'm really happy that the first responders stepped up, but we also have to thank the DPW, who did a great job of helping clean up the day after as well, and set up in the beginning. They helped the fire department, and the police department did a great job. They brought in the mobile, what do they call that? The command center. They brought in the command center, because they had cameras all over the place just to keep an eye on and make sure that it wasn't going to be any type of trouble. I saw Kyle Ferrara going back to his house to pull an HDMI cable from his TV to hook up another camera. My niece had her first birthday across the street from us, so I saw him driving back. I'm like, hey, what's going on? He's like, I need another HDMI cable because I can hook up one more camera. So, I mean, it was a safe environment, which is what we want, and it was well attended. So, and I know my wife was part of the entrance toward the end. She was standing up there with Officer Bill Christopher, and Bill said to him, well, if you weren't here, that box would have filled. She had, kept talking about how it's for first responders. The whole donation box that was built by Joe Vanderplatt was brimming to the top with donations, so it was tremendous. So, we're supposed to have a meeting tomorrow to debrief what was happening and try to plan the 2020 already, but most of the volunteers can't make it tomorrow, so I'm going to try to move it to next week, because I think I have like 1 or 2 people that can make it from the 10, and one of them's my wife. I don't need to come to town hall to meet with my wife, so.
So maybe you do with all the work you're doing, right?
Yeah, I haven't really seen her since early this morning, so, you're right. Anyway, but thank you. That's my report.
All right, thank you, Tim. By the way, I was going to end with the fireworks, but I think I'll begin with it. It was a great job by everybody pulling together, thinking how you would try to form this committee. You were proactive so that we could do something for 2020. And again, I think we all realize we live in a pretty special town. People pull up their bootstraps, everybody wants to volunteer, everybody wants to help out, and there's a lot of work that was done in a 6-7 week period to pull this off. And you mentioned not only the committee, but the fire department, the DPW folks, the police. Again, we're in a different world today, so we're not just having fireworks, we're having police come in, cordon off the property, sweep it with dogs, make sure that everything is safe, and then reopen the property. I think those that came through the security gates, that's all we had to do. But the punchline was, everybody had a great time. It was a lot of fun with a lot of kids, with a lot of fond memories for me, especially with all those strollers running around. And again, the junior firefighters did the music, and we probably had 4,000 to 5,000 people between here and across the street.
Right.
4,000 to 5,000 people. And special thanks to the gentleman, and if you give a shout out, Frank and Lakes, that let us use his microphones and speakers, and even made me look good when I said a few things from time to time, so that was even extra special. A couple of things, I think we already mentioned it, but we're really blessed this Saturday morning at 9 o'clock, we're doing the ribbon cutting at the United Way group home. It's on the corner of Clinton and Morse. We're really looking forward to it, to welcoming to some of those challenged folks to our community, and it's going to be fun.
I know those ribbon cuttings don't always go off exactly at 9 o'clock. I have to coach the kindergarten soccer team for rec, so if it doesn't, I'll be there right after. It ends at 9:55, so if it's still not off, I'll try to get over there for the ribbon cutting. But I don't want to leave the 10 or 11 children without a coach.
Okay, thank you. And then we also have with the Buddy Walk. For those that don't know it, they've had the Buddy Walk for, I think it's 13, 14 years now. I know is it 15 now?
15 days.
I remember when they first wanted to do it, they actually came to Rotary. I'm in the Wyckoff Miller Park Rotary. They came to us first, then we got together with the YMCA. Originally it started, there was probably tops 30, 40 people by community park, and it's really grown. It's a really great outreach for families in the area and support group, and it's a great way. So come on out, it's a fun event. It's on Saturday, I think it starts at 10:30, 11, 10.
10 to 10:30, yeah.
10 to 10:30. So if you don't get to, back to us, we'll meet you over the YMCA.
Yeah, we'll see. I have a christening, confirmation, and a soccer game, so my Saturday is pretty loaded.
Feel like he's reporting to his wife here.
She's a lot prettier than you.
I wanted to compliment Bob Shannon. So Bob Shannon has a nice article in this month's edition that just came out of the League of Municipalities. In fact, we're fortunate not only is Bob in there with the best practice article, which we're very proud of him to put in that magazine, but we also have Alex Sullivan's article, who is a member of our Junior Environmental Commission member, and his beautiful essay on why Wyckoff is special, why we're trying to do the right things, of volunteering and being responsive to the environment. So it's like extra special. Woody and I had the opportunity a week ago to go to the ShopRite Cares. They had an event where they invited a few folks to come on over, help bag in groceries, and they were donating groceries to those less fortunate. So it was a great way to kind of pitch in. All I'm going to do is comment the two people that I helped almost got away without paying. That was a detail. We got them in the bag. I was talking with them. They're going out. They said, excuse me, you didn't pay yet. Oh, okay. So it was a great event. And I did notice while I was there, I don't know if anyone's been in this ShopRite of late, but they have all kinds of books at the front of ShopRite. I don't know if you've seen it, Brian. I know we did a lot of discussion on recycling book. All kinds of books. They're very successful, and people are bringing them in, lending them out, selling them, exchanging them. And I just thought that's a real nice gesture on behalf of ShopRite, conveniently located. Rudy mentioned the police committee meeting, so I need not to go over that. And then both Rudy and I this morning were at Coolidge School. We got invited to come on over It was very refreshing because, one, it was a nice day, but very nostalgic because kids were either walking to school or taking the bike. So my kids did that. I did that. Of course, I'm one of the generation that walked both ways uphill in the snow barefoot 6 miles to school. But it was very, very nice, and I guess all the other schools in town did it as well. And, again, safety of our young people is always very, very important. So that's the end of my report.
Tom, we should make mention that last week we also had a meeting with some residents in the Eder Ave area regarding break-in entries that had happened in their homes up there. There were a few in the neighborhood, and the reason I'm mentioning it is not because the mayor and I were there, but because two of our detective sergeants attended the meeting with us, and it was a productive meeting. I think we allayed some concerns among the residents. We exchanged some ideas with them, and I just want to thank our two detectives for attending the meeting with Tom and I.
Yeah, that was a good information session. That's up by Eder, Wellington, Farview, off of Russell Ave. There was one break on Russell Ave, and the same day, one on Eder, and through the courtesy of discussion, social media, Wyckoff moms, they had the impression there were at least a dozen going on, but there's only 2 reported in town in the last several months. But one of the alertness, and it's on the police website today, is if you have your automobile, take the keys out, take the key fob, lock it up, don't walk right inside your vestibule and put the key there, because that's what they're looking for. So there's been a couple of auto thefts in town. One homeowner is 2 for 2, where they came back a month later. So just be very, very careful. If you lock your car, they're going to somebody else's car. So just a public information piece. All right, with that, I'm going to ask for a motion to reopen the meeting to public discussion, should anyone wish to discuss it. Also discuss anything pertinent to the Coyotes. We're going to have the 8 o'clock meeting. Right at the beginning of 8 o'clock meeting, there's another question and answer, should you wish to wait. So, can I have a motion to open the meeting to the public?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
All right. Does anybody else want to comment, a question? In a few minutes, you can talk at the 8 o'clock meeting, or you can talk now. Go ahead. Yeah, absolutely. If you wish, sure.
It's Carla Machado, 405 Patton Place. I just have a couple concerns, obviously, with the Coyotes, which is probably addressed to Tyco. So one is, how do they know that a coyote knows the difference between a toddler and a dog? That concerns me a lot. We have our new neighbors who have a 3-year-old who live right there where those coyotes have been seen in the backyard. That scares me. So that's a huge concern. I'd like to know how they feel they know that coyotes won't attack humans. I don't believe that, because they have. So now you're talking a toddler versus a dog. That coyote doesn't know the difference. So that's one. The other issue that concerns me with the coyotes is, why do they need to be killed to do anything about it? Why can't they tranquilize them and relocate them? They tranquilize bears. Why can't they tranquilize a coyote to relocate them? So those are my 2 concerns to Tyco. I like that answer, because my friends and neighbors did an amazing job. They pressed upon everything, but those 2 I'd like to, because that's been on my mind as well. Okay?
We actually, we, at the meeting we had with the Carol from Tyco, we talked about possibly using like a large have-a-heart trap, but it's, the saying, Wile E. Coyote, well, you'll never get a coyote in a have-a-heart trap.
Right.
We did not talk about tranquilizing.
Right, the state did tell me that the coyotes are smart, they will not be trapped in a have-a-heart. They did tell me that. Nobody has touched upon tranquilizing them and relocating them, so, okay? All right, thank you.
Thanks for coming up. Yes, ma'am?
This has nothing to do with any of this. What's
Whoa.
Sorry.
Get a second bite at the apple in this session if it's about the coyotes.
Oh, sorry.
When I open the regular session, it'll take you a few minutes, then you can talk about whatever you want to talk about. Is that fair? All right. That way I keep the meeting on time, too.
Okay.
All right, with that, I'm gonna ask that we, adjourn, recess, we got a recess, don't we, Bob? I'm gonna recess the business, the work
Work
session.
session. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We're gonna have a 2-minute recess before we go right into our regular business meeting. 2 minutes. Whew.
This is the 8 PM, October 2nd, 2019 Township Committee meeting.
I'd like to call the Wednesday, October 2nd, 2019, 8 PM regular meeting of the Wykoff Township Committee to order. Will you please ask everybody to stand for the flag salute and then remain standing for the invocation? Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'm going to do the invocation this evening. Please bow your heads. I want to be thankful to God above us who watches over our school children and all our pedestrians, as we saw this morning at this wonderful program throughout town at the various schools. We ask that you guide us in our governance of this beautiful town. And we give you thanks for all our blessings. We do this in your name. Amen.
Amen.
Joyce, can you read the open public meeting statement?
This regular meeting of the Township of Wykoff is now in session. In accordance with Section 8 of the Open Public Meeting Act, I wish to advise the notice of this meeting has been posted on the bulletin board in Town Hall. Copies been filed with the town clerk. Copies were sent to the Ridgewood News, the Record, and North Jersey Herald and News. All newspapers with general circulation throughout the Township of Wykoff. At least 48 hours prior to the meeting, the agenda was posted, filed, and mailed to the papers. And I note those present there.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Can I have a motion for public comment period, 5 minutes per speaker, for public comment on any governmental issue that a member of the public feels may be concerning the residents of Wykoff?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody have a comment? Please come forward. Your name, address. Seeing none, can we have a motion to close to the public?
Motion to close.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Can I have a motion for the approval of September 17th, 2019 Township Committee work session and regular business meeting minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Boonstra?
Yes.
Mrs. Rubenstein?
Yes.
Mr. Scanlon?
Yes.
Mr. Stanley?
Yes.
Mayor Madigan?
Yes. And, before we go to the consent agenda, I'd like to ask Melissa Rubenstein if she'd be kind enough to read a proclamation and
Sure.
say a few words.
So I am introducing a proclamation to recognize October as Domestic Violence Awareness Month here in Wykoff. Just a little to say before that. Almost 4 years ago, on October 22nd, 2015, Suzanne Bardzell was killed in her driveway on Godwin Ave, very close to here, in an act of domestic violence. We are recognizing October as Domestic Violence Awareness Month in the hopes of providing men and women with information to help them get out of the trap of domestic violence. And I'm going to read the proclamation now.
Thank you.
Whereas victims of domestic violence can be of any age, race, religion, or economic status, and whereas it is estimated that each year up to 9 million individuals in the United States are victims of physical violence, rape, or stalking, and whereas nearly 1 in 4 women and 1 in 7 men have experienced severe physical violence by an intimate partner in their lifetime, and whereas one person can make a huge difference in the life of a child or an adult victim of domestic violence, helping them find safety and making them more resilient to the effects of domestic violence. And whereas volunteers contributed over 10,000 hours a year to supplement the work of county domestic violence staff and are often that one person who makes a difference in the lives of hotline callers, abusers seeking services, and victims seeking support during medical assessment or legal proceedings. And whereas Domestic Violence Awareness Month in October provides us with a special opportunity to advance our efforts to prevent and end domestic violence and to assist all victims of it. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the Township of Wyckoff, the Township Committee of the Township of Wyckoff, County of Bergen, State of New Jersey, hereby that the month of October is proclaimed as Domestic Violence Awareness Month.
Thank you.
And I would like to present the proclamation to my good friend Nakir Azvani, who was Sue's best friend and also cares for her boys. Also happens to be Nikki's birthday, so if she would come up and just receive the proclamation.
That'd be great. Can I give it to her? They want to do a photo or not?
Should we vote on it?
Okay. Start.
I thank all of you for taking this, very seriously, and I feel like by designating October to be Domestic Violence Awareness Month, that it's just kind of a gentle reminder to the public and the people that this does happen, and then if perhaps you can take this and, kind of provide information with a resource through, the website or whatever. It's just another way for people to find help, which in retrospect I tried to help her a lot, the 3 weeks prior to resigning. So I think besides the police, there's other resources out there, but just make it as easy as possible for people.
And we'll get that up on our website.
So thank you.
Well, thank you very much for what you've done and
Yeah, very nice.
continued, appreciate what you've done with the boys, and
And the boys are great, by the way.
that's great. That's
They really
fantastic.
are. One's in college, the other's serving our country in the Navy.
Oh, that's
And they're
fantastic.
great, and they come home to me, and we're a big family. So.
Well, God bless you, and happy birthday, by the way.
Yeah, happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
29.
So Melissa, to make this official, make a motion to approve, I'll second it, and we'll vote on it. and-
Motion to approve, actually, it's on our consent agenda.
Is it on
but-
there?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Okay,
Right.
all right, excellent.
Okay, Joyce, you want to go right to consent agenda?
Sure,
please?
sure. All matters listed below are considered by the Township Committee to be routine in nature. There'll be no separate discussion of these items. If any discussion is desired by the Township Committee, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately. Resolutions adoption of the following. 19290, designate the month of October as Fire Prevention Month. 291, authorize an interlocal services agreement with Northwest Bergen County Utilities Authority. 292, authorize shared service agreement with Bergen County. 293, award contracts for pay-to-play compliance. 294, reduction of 2019 tax levy due to tax appeal judgments. 296, payment of bills. 297, return of certain overpaid taxes, escrow monies, etc. 298, review of best practices checklist. 299, Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and closed session discussion on anticipated litigation. Motions proclaim October 6th as Knockout Opioid Abuse Day and approve the appointment of Ben Weiner to the Environmental Commission. Also approve the New Jersey firefighters application for Christopher Hillman and John Pensalordi into Volunteer Fire Company Number 1. 6 ordinances for introduction this evening. Number 1889, an ordinance amending the land use ordinance of the Township of Wyckoff to amend pedestrian circulation and safety standards. 1890, an ordinance amending the land use ordinance of the Township of Wyckoff to amend Chapter 186 zoning to add one new illusionary overlay mixed-use zone consistent with and designed to effectuate the Township's adopted 2018 third-round housing element and fair share plan. 1891, an ordinance amending the land use ordinance of the Township of Wyckoff to amend Chapter 186 zoning to add one new illusionary overlay mixed-use zone consistent with and designed to effectuate the Township's adopted 2018 third-round housing element and fair share plan. 1892, an ordinance amending the land use ordinance of the Township of Wykoff to amend Chapter 186 zoning to add one new illusionary overlay mixed-use zone consistent with and designed to effectuate the Township's adopted 2018 third-round housing element and fair share plan. 1893, an ordinance amending the land use ordinance of the Township of Wykoff to amend buffer and planting standards. 1894, an ordinance amending the land use ordinance of the Township of Wykoff to amend Chapter 186 zoning to add one new illusionary overlay mixed-use zone consistent with and designed to effectuate the Township's adopted 2018 third-round housing element and fair share plan. Can I have a motion on the consent agenda, please?
So moved.
Second, with discussion, I just need to correct, it's inclusionary, it's not illusionary. I'm sure the guys that...
Yes.
I'm sure, well, all four of them just said illusionary.
I know she said it on the third one.
I'm sure the guys that
I picked it up. It does say
They were
inclusionary. I picked it up.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, all right. Thanks, Rudy. Sorry about
Okay,
that.
sorry about that.
Okay, all right, roll call. Mr. Boonstra?
Yes.
Mrs. Rubenstein?
Yes.
Mr. Scanlon?
Yes.
Mr. Stanley?
Yes.
Mayor Madigan?
Yes.
One ordinance for public hearing. Mr. Chairman, I have ordinance number 1888 entitled, "An Ordinance to Amend Chapter 177 of the Code of the Township of Wykoff, Vehicles and Traffic Related to Truck Routes," for second reading by title only. A copy of this ordinance is posted on the bulletin board in Town Hall, where public notices are customarily posted, and copies have been made available to members of the general public of the township who have requested the same.
I move the ordinance on second reading by title only.
Second.
Mr. Boonstra?
Yes.
Mrs. Rubenstein?
Yes.
Mr. Scanlon?
Yes.
Mr. Stanley?
Yes.
Mayor Madigan?
Yes. This is the time and place for public hearing on ordinance number 1888. And all persons who wish to be heard, please state your name and address before making your statement.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to place on the record that I have a memorandum dated September 30th from Police Chief David V. Murphy recommending that the Township Committee adopt the Mountain Avenue truck restriction.
I move public hearing on the ordinance be closed.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Be it resolved by the Township Committee of the Township of Wykoff that ordinance number 1888B and the same is hereby adopted. The municipal clerk is hereby authorized and directed to publish a notice of final passage of said ordinance in the official newspaper for the township as provided by law.
I move the resolution.
Second.
Mr. Boonstra?
Yes.
Mrs. Rubenstein?
Yes.
Mr. Scanlon?
Yes.
Mr. Stanley?
Yes.
Mayor Madigan?
Yes. Have a motion to adjourn and go into closed session? We're adjourning, but we're not recessing, correct?
We are adjourning the 8 p.m. meeting, and we are reconvening the work session.
Okay,
So move.
okay.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, now we're back in the work session. Now I'm gonna make a motion to, it went away. Okay, that'd be perfect, that'd be even better.
I'll try to do
Thank you.
How many
That's no problem.
pages?
three.
Okay, we're back in the work session. Thank you.
Excuse me, Bob, did you want us to pass this card around?
Yes.
Yes, please.
Consider it passed.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, for purposes of clarity, I just want to confirm that Joyce and I will contact the Bergen County Clerk's office to try to reschedule them to visit or to relocate their satellite office again in Wykoff, and that we will contact the New Jersey DMV to try to get them for the program. That's-
In addition to, like, just on the vein of the DMV, maybe we could put some education about the new New Jersey identification that's going to go into effect,
Okay.
Okay, that's a good idea.
because I know a lot of us are unsure about that, and when our licenses are not going to work at the airport.
Okay, I will get some, I will do that. But I do have authority to move forward with the county clerk's satellite office and the DMV to bring them back.
Yeah, bring them back at a couple of dates so we can talk about possible.
Okay, so I'll come back with dates for you,
Yeah.
as opposed to just scheduling.
Yeah, could you do that?
Okay.
A couple of options.
Okay. All right, I just want to go over a couple items. Regarding the DOT grant for Greenwood Avenue, you saw my notes of the meeting with the consulting engineer. It looks like that'll be advertised in December for work in spring 2020. Regarding Mountain Avenue, we had a specific letter was prepared by the consulting engineer. Mayor Madigan signed it. It was sent to New Jersey DOT decision makers, and it was also emailed to their decision makers. I'm going to move forward with a grant application for the Bergen County CDBG next round of funding. I've been able, in discussions with them, to determine that I can purchase energy-efficient windows and have them installed at the Larkin House. So I'm going to move forward with that. Just so you know, with all these grants, there's a certain amount of strategy involved because the grant funding is not unlimited. There's a portion given to Northwest Bergen, and I always try to find a grant that's within the financial parameters of 1/13 of the allocation. It makes me easier to argue for our fair share. Since we provide the lion's share of the taxes our taxpayers do out of Northwest Bergen. We also received a memorandum of record from the DOT regarding the meeting that was held at the Newtown Road Railroad Crossing in Franklin Lakes. It appears that in the future there will be gates and additional safety and warning improvements to there. The full resident newsletter was received on 9/25 prior to the fireworks, so that was another opportunity to promote the event. The Board of Health will be providing an opportunity for first responders and employees and officials to obtain a flu shot. I just want to point out to you, I'm sure you saw the reports in the packet, but 3 of our police officers were injured making arrest of a violent person. Our officers are all back to work. Denise is working on a number of energy savings grants, and we're working with the New Jersey Board of Public Utilities Clean Energy Program, and we're attempting to apply for some grants through a Gardner Environmental Fund. We had a UCC violation issued for work that was done at 647 Quackenbush without a permit. It was the finishing of a basement. When work is done without permits, it skews the sales to assessment ratio, resulting in the taxpayers having to pay for costly revaluations. I prepared some information for the Board of Health in a draft ordinance. Hopefully that'll help you moving forward with the commissary kitchens.
Okay, great.
And that's helpful.
Does Steve have a copy of that yet?
It was sent to Cindy, and I asked Cindy I sent it to you and Cindy, asked
Okay.
her to send it out.
I'll send it to Steve if he doesn't have it yet.
Okay. We've been we've been issuing on our social media some information. It was mentioned this evening about not leaving your car key fobs in your car. At last meeting, the Township Committee decided to be proactive after an update from Mr. Scanlon and Mr. Shanley regarding letters that were sent by O&R to 8 property owners identifying their electric meters or electric facilities as possibly being unsafe. Those letters were sent from Thomas Gensheimer, the construction official, and he also offered to help them in any way if they reached out to him by phone. Those letters were sent. They were sent regular mail, but we made photocopies of the envelopes with a postmark, so they were mailed.
Thank you, Bob. Has Orange and Rockland reached out since that meeting to us? They were supposed to supply us some additional information.
No, I've had no contact with them.
Yeah, and it's typical O&R. You know, they tell you, oh, we'll get back to you on that, and they still haven't sent anything to us. And I specifically asked them also to follow up with their project to put the lines underground on Brookside, which they talked about right after Sandy. And it seems like they're just going back to sleep, and we want to make sure that they're following through on all the things that they promised to do after we had all those problems after, Sandy, the storms, the winter storms. And it just seems like they're not doing what they promised to do after we lost power for so long. I want to keep putting some pressure on them to get stuff done.
Okay, excuse me? I think the best approach would be to start writing to the president of O&R, because we don't seem to make any progress. I have a whole file box full of hours and hours of work, and we just don't seem to...
We're just not getting any answers.
Get any accomplishments with them. They seem to do whatever they want. And the Board of Public Utilities seems to say that they're providing relatively reasonably cost electric service, so what's the problem? The problem is their responsiveness.
Right.
Okay. The 2020 calendar continues. You saw that Nancy sold 20 of 24 adverts. That's moving along. The cracks in the tennis courts, which were the subject of a complaint, were repaired.
Well, speaking of that, I spoke with some trustees of the Torpedoes, and I spoke with Andy Wakefield, who said he spoke to the Torpedoes, and it seems like the Torpedoes are willing to foot some of the bill for fixing that fence on the cage at Memorial, because that's the issue where the bottom of the fence is curling up, and it's becoming somewhat of a hazard if somebody falls and cuts themselves on it. So I think they're gonna do it. Andy is trying to get estimates on how it could be fixed. I had a conversation with him today, and he said it's really just the back end, and it's probably from the balls hitting them, because when you miss the goal, it hits the fence. So it's just the two ends that have the problems with the bottoms of the fence curling up and becoming somewhat that could puncture the skin if somebody falls on it.
I'll follow up with Andy and see where the repair is then.
So, yeah.
Do you know if he has initiated that?
He reached out to someone at the Torpedoes who said they'd be willing to contribute to it. And I spoke to Victor Mascaro, one of the trustees, who said, yeah, we know about it, we want to help. So, because they use it quite often, and they certainly don't want any of their players injured on it.
Okay. I'll check with him. My concern is to get the repair done.
Yeah.
For safety.
Exactly.
Okay, on September 30th, the police department conducted another DMV inspection at Main Street in Wyckoff. In 3 hours, the police stopped 39 vehicles, and they issued 20 summonses for operating vehicles without safety, or all the violations were operating vehicles without the required safety inspection. They had all expired. And as you know, the whole purpose of these projects with the police department and the DMV is to ensure that the vehicles driving through our community are safe, because it's our residents and our children who are walking in the crosswalks and on the sidewalks. So, the statistics continue to be alarming, but we are making progress with that. The tax sale is scheduled for October 24th. Regarding the fireworks, I'd like to thank Mr. Shanley for heading that up. I'd like to thank everybody who participated. A special thanks needed to go to the fire department, the DPW, and the police department. The extensive amount of work required to perform this community event is significant. The planning, the OEM planning, the police planning, the fire department planning. The ambulance had to obtain mutual aid ambulance to assist them at the event. We had mutual aid fire department. The amount of planning and operations is really significant, and I think they all did a good job. So I'd just like to recognize them. And Mr. Mayor, I think that's all I have.
Okay, so can I have a motion?
Can
I say something?
First, I want to say, that was 4 pages. I counted. I'm going to keep it real.
Does the township attorney have anything this evening?
Yes, just a few things, Mr. Mayor, thank you. I think there was a letter on the table tonight, or in your packet, with regards to waste management. So I assume that's going to go away. I think we are lucky that we have the best township administrator in the state, and the way the contract reads, the recyclables are, the carriers the minute they pick it up. So there's really no argument for waste management to come after us for fees, because they're not our recyclables any longer. But I talked to the attorney. I think that's gone away now. We'll see. We introduced the overlay ordinances tonight. I want to thank Rudy and Brian and Bob for all their comments and help. And also Beth McManus, who really put the draft together, and then we went from there. And we've got a few more ordinances I've been going through the notes, and it's taking a little longer because we have a new planner, who's great, but, she's taking the project over for Betsy, and Betsy kind of left pretty quickly, so it wasn't as clean of a handoff as we would have liked, and for real reasons, sort of things that couldn't be avoided. But, there's other ordinances we have to draft, specifically 3 zoning ordinances to the properties on Greenwood and the gas station next door are all rezoned as part of our, new housing element. So we'll start working on that. Those should be easier, I would think. I've got the execute agreement for the shared services with the county for the truck to hold the school equipment. Tom signed that, the mayor signed that.
Great.
I'll get that down to the county, so that's done. And finally, I think on a personal note, as a resident, I'd like to say that I attended the fireworks for the first time in many years, and it was the best one yet. Sometimes it kind of reminded me of complex planning board and zoning board applications where, it's not a good plan in the beginning, but you get enough talented people to work on it, and you end up with a better product. And thanks to Tim and everybody, and Melissa, Shanley, and everybody who worked on it. But it certainly, I think most of the people I talked to that night are kind of hoping that it goes this way on the same date every year. So it's a much improved event. So thanks for all your efforts.
Thank you, Rob. I was very nervous on Saturday, all day up until the event. I wanted to go without any hiccup or anything. There was only one hiccup, and it was the ice cream vendor got there and says, "Oh, I'm going to have to leave at 9:30. I'm like, "No, once you're in here, you're not leaving until it's over because it's on lockdown. We're not having vehicles driving." So we lost the ice cream truck for the kids, which was the only hiccup,
Well, Tim, at least you didn't lose your child. Because
I was just
I
gonna
know.
say, that wasn't even the worst thing that happened. Rob, I have to say thank you, because he washed out Lucas's mouth when he bit into the glow stick. And so Lucas
geez.
just, it was...
He was having fun.
Tonight, and yes, lost him for...
But yeah, the only thing is the kids didn't have the ice cream truck, which...
It was great. It was a great night.
It gives them an opportunity to go to Dairy Queen after.
That's right.
True. I think Dairy Queen was packed afterwards.
Okay, with that, can I have a motion to recess, and do we need recess separate, or just recess and go into our closed session?
We're essentially going to remain in the work session and adopt a resolution to enter a closed session discussion, which is part of the open work session.
Yeah,
I'll make
that's kind of what I said, but yeah, thank you.
That motion.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye. Okay, thanks
All right,
everybody for
thank you.
coming out this evening.
Birthday.
Good to see you then.